By the end of this video, you will have 3 really practical, tangible ways to have a positive influence on others. Part of this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to rewind the tape 8 years to a TEDx talk that I gave on the topic of positive social risks. We're going to do a little breakdown reaction video. I had a little bit more hair back then. We're going to do a little bit of a reaction video and break down 3 specific strategies that you can use, steal, and apply in your own context to have a bigger, wider, and more positive influence on others. I'm Chad Littlefield. Let's get into it. First of all, I know that you clicked on this video and so you have a rough or implicit intention to have a positive impact on others, but the first step to having a more positive influence on others is getting really clear on what your intention is. And specifically, the story that I want to open up with is my co-founder, Will Wise, came back from this Mastery Leadership Academy in Ireland. And like his last name, he's a wise guy. And he came back and he shared this phrase with me that I really wrestled with at first. I actually didn't like it at first. I'm gonna share it with you, but I've learned to love it, and it's totally transformed the way that I walk through the world and see people. And the phrase is, I am the possibility that, ... A little grammatically awkward, but the idea is if you fill in that phrase, so I am the possibility that, what are you the possibility of? If you fill in that phrase, that speaks to your overarching intention, or you could even call it like a personal mission statement. And the reason I like the phrase now is, the concept is, I am the possibility that, meaning when you actually walk into a room through a door, you bring with you a possibility that wasn't previously there. And likewise, when you get up and walk out of a door, right, you leave, or you take with you a possibility. So here's an example. We'll first share this phrase. I'm kind of, scratching ideas out on a notebook of how I might want to fill in that sentence. What's my personal mission statement? And I came up with, I am the possibility that we can create a moment that is worth remembering. It's kind of based on this idea that there's actually 20,000 3-second moments that happen every single day. 98% of them we forget, right? They're totally tuned out. But each day there's little moments that hang on. So if you want to have a positive influence on someone, for me, I was walking through the world saying and making my decisions based on, is this a moment that's worth remembering or not? It influenced the questions I asked. It influenced the stories I told to people. It influenced whether I chose to stay in and watch TV or climb to the top of a mountain. It influenced all sorts of choices in my life because I am the possibility that we can create a moment worth remembering. Really cool. So the idea is that this statement, you might have it might be written in sandstone, not stone, meaning it might change over time. And a couple years ago, I went on a week-long middle of nowhere kayak camping trip, and a new sentence or a new mission hit me in the head like a brick. And it is, I am the possibility that we can gently eradicate small talk. And so I walk through the world with that lens now. I still want to create moments that remember, but I walk through the world with the lens of how can I turn every conversation that's just like small talk into a meaningful conversation. That's the way that I want to have a positive influence on others. So my invite to you is, I'm gonna share with you 2 more really practical ideas that you can come up with to have a positive influence. But feel free, even if you want to, pause the video and fill in the sentence, or write down that stem, I am the possibility that, and spend a few minutes afterward filling that out. Just by having that sentence in writing, you will actually have a more positive influence on others because you'll have declared it and your behaviors will change because you've set that intention. Okay, now to this idea of positive social risks. Back in the day, I had more hair, but I'm gonna let my old self describe what a positive social risk is a little bit and frame it up and give you a visual. Here we go.
I want to share a story that I feel like helps break down what it is to take a positive social risks and gives you a picture of that transformation. But to organize some of the chaos that goes on up here, I want to divide the space into a couple sections. First chunk, we're going to call our own interpersonal comfort zone. So this is where we're comfortable, the outcomes of our social interactions are certain, life is both predictable and familiar in the space. Over here, this pile of boxes, we're going to let represent our own anxious bump. So the further we get from our comfort zone and the closer we get to our anxious bump, life becomes more uncertain, more unpredictable, more unfamiliar, and more uncomfortable. And all of those words pile up to form a barrier that separates and isolates us from other people. Comfort zone, anxious bump.
Okay, so you got that aspect. You've got to stretch outside of where you're comfortable. Oftentimes, you can't have a positive influence on people if you're sitting on your couch thinking about having a positive influence on people. And so it actually requires action. One of my mentors, Matt Church, says action precedes clarity. And I love that idea. Like, go try to have a positive impact on someone. Take a positive social risk and see what happens. If it has a positive influence on someone, do more of that. If it doesn't, change it up. Now, if you really want to stretch your ability to have a positive influence on others, go to Boston in the middle of winter and try to warm up that bus. Try to have a positive influence on others on a cold Boston public transportation bus. Check out the story at my attempt of this.
So rewind to a few weeks ago. I'm hopping on a bus on my way to Boston to pick up my grandma from the airport. And as the bus starts moving, I'm struck at how silent this crowded bus is. And so I'm thinking to myself, if there is any place to test whether a positive social risk can transform the way that you experience the world, this is the place. So I started looking around for a person who I can connect with genuinely. And the more that I look around, the closer I get to here until my heart rate is about right here. And I look down to the person next to me and I say, hey, what's the Jason project on your hat all about? And he looks up confused. And then his face lights up, and he starts giving me all this information about what the Jason Project is. Now, he worked with Robert Ballard, the dude who discovered the Titanic, and all this passion starts flinging out. And in that moment, I realized that all the unpredictability and the uncertainty and the discomfort and the anxiety that I brought with me into that interaction was gone, and I was certain that that conversation with Henry freaking rocked.
Okay, so the lesson there, right, for me, the Jason Project written on his hat, right? The lesson there was when you follow your natural, genuine curiosity, it has a way of communicating to people that you are not only willing to see them or willing to know them, but you see them, hear them, get them, and at some level are actually with them. You're actually on their team. You want the best for them. Now, you could argue, like, did I have a positive influence on Henry or not on that cold Boston bus? To this day, Henry and I exchanged Christmas cards. To this day, I have a picture, this really funky nature, like refractive nature photography that Henry did that he sent to me as a gift hanging in my office. This is a stranger on a cold Boston bus. That said, while my intention was to have a positive influence on Henry, intention influences impact, but it does not control it. And here's a story that illustrates that a little more painfully.
Just the other day, I was walking down the street with a friend, and I saw a girl across the street wearing the same color lime green jacket as I was. And so with the wholly positive intention of connecting with another human being, I looked at her and said, hey, love the lime green jacket. It's a great color on us. And I got shut down hard. Got shut down hard with and a beautifully arched eye roll. When I was thinking, though, about what actually happened, that was a failed positive social risk, but what actually happened, and besides a dent to my ego that was magnified by the fact that she was a fourth grader, nothing happened. Nothing happened.
I told you, intention influences impact, but it does not control it. So get really clear about your intentions. But make sure that they're not so focused on you. Make sure that you're not worried about how you look or how you appear, or what they think of you. Shift your focus to a we-centric focus. In fact, a little behind the scenes for this TED Talk, it may not look like it. I might look like I'm having fun on stage speaking in front of 800 people. But I would say the time that I was most nervous, choicefully, in my entire life was about 10 seconds before I gave that talk. About 10 seconds before I walked on stage. My heart rate, I didn't have a watch that get my heart rate 8 years ago, but I would bet that my heart rate was in the 150 range, which is a fast running pace. And the reason was, I've now learned that I went onto the stage and I was really concerned about how I looked and what people thought of me. And as soon as that shifted, and I think about 30 seconds to a minute into the talk, I realized wait. Forget about how I look, right? I'm so much more interested in giving this group of 800 human beings some really valuable content. I'm so much more interested in the people that will watch this recording afterward, and I'm so much less interested in this person. I wanted to think of some way to end that talk that would actually shift the focus from me to we, and I'll just let my ending speak for itself.
So the pattern of the interaction that we are having right now is that I get up and say some words, and then you clap. I want to shatter that right now. I want absolutely none of you to clap, but I invite all of you to stand with me. Stand with me. And in a minute, when I say the word connect, I want you to turn to a person next to you that you do not know and have never met. Look into their eyes, introduce yourself, and share a piece of who you are. Share what you are most passionate about in life right now. Listen deeply to each other. And again, let your applause be the sounds of your voices connecting in here and out there. Don't clap. Connect.
So, if you want to create a positive impact on others, every single interaction you have, take this M and rotate it 180 degrees. And chances are, no matter what it is, what action it is that you're doing, chances are that you'll be having a positive influence on others. I'm Chad Littlefield. Lovely hanging out in cyberspace. Have an awesome day.